nobody can see me, right?
We'll see.
No,
Yeah.
they can see me.
No,
Darn. I was
namaste.
hoping it was hidden.
Welcome to our Tuesday night satsang.
Tuesday morning.
Oh, Tuesday morning. Thank you. It is light. Namaste. All right, so thank you for joining us today. Satya is now recovered from her transition.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so she's able to join me now. So good to have her be with me up here.
It's also really nice to see some of my fellow travelers in India back online.
Yeah. So, as always, there's a process before I do any program. Matter of fact, almost any meeting that I do now related to New Dharma, there's this transformational process, like making the space for whatever is going to happen. It's like there's nothing I can do associated with this work that doesn't send me into the yoga manifestation, which primarily is a version of dejection. So it's the nature of the truth of when we become mature on the spiritual path, is that we come to a place where there is this quality we carry of holding, of being able to hold what's arising. I know what it is. I call it the presence, but it is more than that. It's a quality of being that's free to be. That is, it doesn't have the fear of being uncomfortable or losing something. It doesn't have the need for things to be a certain way or to be different. It has a capacity to be in life fully, but the quality of it is also free, absolutely, totally free, no bounds. So it's not a desert. It's not an emptiness. It's not the fullness either. Rather, it's where it all arises. So this is now stable in me. And the nature of this stability is what I have recognized that my whole life was seeking, that which lasts. That is always there. So whenever I go through a process where there's some version of manifestation, then I grow in my capacity to be the presence. So it's like I eat the poison and I become more and more efficient in being with whatever is in my system or whatever is in the atmosphere or whatever is in the way of the manifestation before it happens. Literally create the space for existence to be exactly as it is. So when it shows up, when the moment of manifestation shows up, I'm in the state I'm in right now, which is Mahananda, serene, free, full. And when I bring it into my human experience, pure, unadulterated love. So the nature of the quality of what you're seeking really has its antecedents in the journey of your soul through many, many lifetimes. There's no one who's with me, like those of you here right now, who isn't a fallen yogi. Someone in another life or other lives has made progress spiritually and has come into this life again to take up the task that was incomplete or thwarted in a previous life or previous lives. You bring with you then a samskara of spiritual seeking. You bring with you a samskara, a tendency, a desire that has its human component, of course, because all samskaras are related to being in a body, to bring into existence the next stage of the purpose you were born for. So none of you who are with me isn't one who has traveled a long distance on this journey, wherever you are. Devotion is not something that you get or earn or make happen. It's rather an inevitable outcome of a mature traveler on this path, this journey of consciousness. The quality of devotion is the capacity to love, but to commit also, to hold, and to keep choosing to move into relationship with the innate quality of that which is devoted and that which is the object of the devotion. So for me, the evidence of a mature soul is the depth and integration of their devotion. See, devotion isn't an ecstatic state or desperate longing. Devotion is a quality of being that is fully here to fulfill its purpose. It's devoted to becoming something that it knows and senses, to actualize that in our outer lived life. See, this is the only way we can have the thing that lasts. Because the only thing that lasts is what lives us, is the core of what we are, the truth. And then that truth carries this vast capacity to be present, to show up. But it also carries with it this devotion simultaneously, impersonal, personal, universal, individual. These are just labels of a quality of being that when we align our outer life and tame the lower parts of our nature and come into responsibility for our own experience, we grow in our capacity to own what it is we already are. So this is what I demonstrate. This is what I speak about. This is what I guide you to find, even when you don't know that's where you want to go. I hold the space, but I make no demand. I simply invite you. Invite you to become more than you are. Invite you to stretch outside of the boundary of the thing that keeps finding you, because it's only that in you that would strive, that is worthy for that which is not yet manifest. This is how we grow into our purpose. That's how we grow into our capacity, not only to be, but to be useful. So the quality of devotion that lives me is not different than the quality of devotion some of you have towards me. It's a quality of an unquestioning commitment or resolve, a willingness to hear, to receive, to accept, to go beyond the boundaries that normally your ego claims as absolute sacred and don't touch this one. It takes a growing quality of that same devotion I have for you in you for me. You see, my devotion awakens your devotion, and your devotion reminds me of my devotion. And this is the most profound relationship possible on this planet. In India, they say it's birth, death, and guru. The three foundational principles of existence. Now, until you find the guru, there's just birth and death, and that's the condition of most of humanity. But the principle of guru is as eternal as birth and death. Guru means that which is beyond birth and death. So it's that third pillar. And it's only through that third pillar that we can find within ourselves this presence, this freedom, this unending capacity to bring into existence a possibility that's not there yet. At the level of a human person, it's very difficult, certainly at first. But it's interesting how it is. The more difficult the challenges are, the stronger the presence, the stronger the devotion. Now, when I had my awakening, after about 3 months, when the shroud of my ego quieted enough, I longed for the guru. I didn't have a guru. Remember, Baba had been my guru, and I had found other versions of gurus in the course of my life. But there was this longing for that quality, that third principle. My soul was ready. So when I contacted Shravananda, I found it. It didn't matter the exactness of his teachings or anything. It was simply the meeting of something that was calling, that brought in me forward a recognition that this was the journey of journeys, the last journey, that this was the third pillar, that this is what I was born to know. So when I went to India, he taught me by putting me into ordeal after ordeal after ordeal after ordeal. Physical, mental, vital. He did that for how many years? 5, 6 years. And then he said, I'm satisfied. I give you this name and go and start teaching. The nature of it is I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't looking to teaching. I was looking to swim in the fullness of the opportunity of this third principle, to continue to expand, to continue to serve it. So even when I was teaching for years and years, I was doing it for him, for that, because that was the object of my devotion. That was the organizing of my purpose. That was the final coming together of all my many lives into a resolve to complete this life. And it wasn't even something I thought about. It wasn't something in my mind. It was something I lived. And that meant the grace was doing it. It meant the guru in me was already manifesting. And I was always surprised when, in the early days, when it would pop out. Wow, look at that. How did that happen? Because I was so organized to be devoted to the guru. I didn't know the guru's devotion. It's all about the union of that which is separate with that which is endlessly not separate. So that's the paradigm. But there's more to that because we've come in an extraordinary time. This time is a time when many mature souls, they come to complete the journey of all their lives. They come for that purpose. And the quality of a devotee who has lived multiple lives on the spiritual journey is quite different. I sense it in them when they come. I sense how near their goal is. And this calls forward something in the groove that I carry that reaches out to them, to hold them, to pull them to that. But there's something about this time, and it's been predicted for a long time, but in my experience, it's totally here. And everything I've done in all these years and what New Dharma is about is for the manifestation of what has come to this world already. That means it's already here. It's been here. It has not been here before. It is really relatively recent. It's come in the last 100 years or so. And it's brought something forward into the dense material consciousness that was not even imagined or possible. I believe it was the heralding of the 2 world wars. That was the 2 world wars is what awakened humanity to the beginnings of the new consciousness. Took 2 wars. One wasn't enough. Took a second war, and then the threat of a third, and maybe a fourth, to keep us in the remembrance of our necessity to come into a new consciousness as a species. So this is a quote from Sri Aurobindo. It came from articles, the letters on yoga. So it was one of the comments he made, speaking of the supramental realization. He uses the word supramental, I call it the Sat force or the principle of the Sat, Sat Shakti, Sat Shree. All of those are expressions of that same primal, new, powerful accelerant to consciousness as being injected in the collective atmosphere these last years, especially since World War II. Of course, some version of that had its existence before, but this is different. It's like the planet has moved into a different quadrant of the universe. This solar system was not bound to a location except through gravity. And everything was bound to the gravity was also doesn't have a location except as bound by gravity. So everything is moving. We have moved into a new vibrational frequency of the universe that is more open to this force. And therefore the whole planet and every other planet, any other object in this frequency would have access to this force, but it's only conscious when there are self-aware beings who can experience it. On one side, there is the supramental realization, the overshadowing and descending power of the supramental divine, the light and force of a far greater truth than any yet realized on the earth. Something, therefore, beyond what the little human mind and its logic regard as the only permanent realities. Something whose nature and way and process of development here it cannot conceive or perceive by its own inadequate instruments or judge by its puerile standards. In spite of all the opposition, this is pressing down for the manifestation in the physical consciousness and the material life. Now, when I found this quote, it was like, yes, even though it was written in 1925. There is this true thing that we human beings can't know based on the paradigm we were born into and are actually unwittingly an expression of. That a whole new paradigm for consciousness has come. But the principle of guru has an endless function because there is birth and death and that which takes us beyond birth and death, the guru. So the principle of this is something that's only available to a species that has become sufficiently self-aware, sufficiently mature to be able to secure an evolution in consciousness in the material world, where things like disease and premature death or premature children and disease and cancer, these things could be cured. That the inadequacy of distribution of food on the planet can be resolved or work to be resolved. That the inequalities that have existed in the species due to the primitive structures of evolution of nature are reorganized so that each human becomes recognized as a sacred opportunity for existence to manifest. So we are there. It's there in our idealisms. It's there in the Constitution of the United States. It's there in the endless struggle that was tested by these two world wars, and that is being currently tested in new forms, as it will continue to be tested as we come out of the shroud of the consciousness we as a species have lived under up until now. And each of us have our own version of the shroud. And very few really are capable of having any authority over the shroud that they live because they are the shroud. Ignorance sees ignorance as truth. So they can't see the shroud because it's the very thing that's looking. It's the very thing that's knowing. It's the very thing that's experiencing. So we can't do anything about that for the mass species. These will last for as long as they last. But we can do something about it when we become an awakened or evolving awakened soul in our piece of the shroud that we carry. And that's the only way that we as a species can make the leap that we're being asked to make. And the nature of this leap isn't all up to us, but I assure you that what's happening on the planet, the climate change, is about us humans. It's not about the planet. It is here. This transition is for us to own, to claim, and to awaken. And what is the nature of that awakening? It'll always start with the peril. It'll always start from the ignorance. It starts from the showing of the ignorance, the demonstrating of the consequences of the ignorance. This is how anything within us or outside of us gets revealed. Because once it's shown, then there's a possibility of owning it, taking responsibility for it, converting it into a means of discovering the next thing to be met, to be included, to be in presence with, to discover the right relationship with. So I recognize the seeking in all of you. As I sit here and I look at you, I know you all. There's no strangers to me. And it's this that gives me the greatest satisfaction as a personal being. That I'm given the honor of being the one that helps you, takes you. No, I don't help you. I take you to the truth of your eternal self. I take you there. It's not something I do. I mean, I'm trying to find the words that say what this is. It's something that happens, but it's more than happening. It's like a gravity. It pulls, and it pulls you to what I am, and you become that in the process. But in the process, everything that's in the way of that, the unwillingness, the resistance, the self-will, the self-doubt, the habit of depression, the habit of despair, the habit of self-diminishment keeps obscuring your own ability to actually know what you're being pulled to. I have many people I'm pulling far beyond what's on the screen. They don't know it. They can't see it. It's not up to me. It's what happens. The principle of the Guru is the one missing principle in all of duality, in all of the creation. And the soul recognizes it. And when the soul recognizes it, inevitably, it's going to start revealing itself. First, by everything that's obscuring us from it. And then through the process of learning how to come into the right relationship with ourselves as we are, living within the habits of our shrouds and the indoctrination of our upbringing and the cultural conditioning and the ancestral karma that comes with the body. So there's nothing you really need to do as much as you need to let go of and be willing. To be willing and to let go of. A surrendering of that which you knew for that which you do not yet know. And in that, a humility comes because you begin to discover parts of yourself that were blocking you from your soul's journey that would have been hidden otherwise. It's only in awakening that we begin to see that we've been asleep. So the Guru brings this capacity for you to perceive newly, to see more deeply, to experience in new ways something of the truth you're becoming. So New Dharma isn't a major reorganization. It's not just an organization in the normal way we think of this, but a paradigm shift, a transition in terms of its principles. It's still emerging, but I have a feeling of where it's going. India was the first glimpse of living with people for 6 weeks. When I noticed when I was living with people for 6 weeks, every single day was moving people through stages way beyond what they could move through remotely or even visiting now and then or doing a 9-day or a 6-day. There was something about the immersion of the time together that allowed for some very deep and fundamental structures to start dissolving or resolving in the field of what was becoming. So it's probably like that. It was there in the beginning, back in when I first started teaching, but now it's taken a complete new and more mature and more full and more greater effectiveness than I've ever recognized before was possible. And I'm sure it's because of you, because of those who joined me. Because the maturing of this work is also calling for the more mature souls. It's inevitable. It's what happens. And you may not know you're a mature soul, except through the cry, through the call of your soul. The anguish of remaining separate, the longing to become that which you sense but do not yet know. A fierce aspiration to know it, to be it. So it's clear that the way I can most effectively go forward will be to own what I am, to declare it, to invite people into a more sacred relationship than the role I've had before, which has been mostly a guider or a teacher, and of course, the transmission. But without the engagement of the whole person of you, it can only go so far, because the habit of the collective error that you carry or you live in or that your life already is very hard to come out of. Very hard. So the place we're in right now, this building we're in this physical grounds, I see we will be doing a month, 6 weeks, maybe 3 months immersion programs here in Washoe, with maybe a month between. I'll look at exactly, we're looking to formulate the pods that would occur in the course of the year that would allow for what India showed me. It would allow for a deepening and enriching into the possibility of what we are with others. And this is the next phase of my life. And as I speak this, it brings me a happiness. Like, yes, you finally have said it. It's like, it is what I've always longed for. And perhaps it's part of my design as a person, or perhaps it's what the Guru, this particular expression of the fully human, fully divine manifestation longs for too. To be fully human and fully divine, the largest part of my work in the last 10 years is to become fully human. It's not done because the depths of what it is to be a human being is extraordinarily tangled. And it changes continuously. In fact, it's not a stable thing. It appears to be a stable thing. The only thing stable is its endless activity. It's endless worry, it's endless thinking, it's endless wanting, it's living fearless, endless moods. That's the only thing. That keeps life to be the incredible, unspeakable diversity of terror, trauma, violence, cruelty, love, compassion, grace, and miracles, all in the same potpourri. From the vantage point of the Supreme, this is the most entertaining place to be. But it can only be enjoyed from that endless silence and stillness, from that freedom of presence. So I'm very happy that the 9-day is coming up. I assure you, the presence is going to show itself in the 9-day. Whatever the program may have been, it'll be what will be there in a way it hasn't been before. That's my sense of it. I look forward to it. It'll be, they probably will have, in some locations, 18 feet of snow. So maybe not all of you could even get there. or get out. So I love it. It's a perfect perilous situation. Probably won't happen again. I don't know when we'll have a snowstorm, a winter that's, and normally we get a winter that's about 2 months. This one has started in November and it hasn't ended since. They've never had that much snow, never, that they know. So I want to celebrate by finding a little place on the edge of the lake, which don't plow the roads, you can get to it. That is in the midst of a rare event in the atmosphere that we can huddle together in a very intimate group and take in the fire of the Sat force and let that warm our bones, warm our beings. We won't need heaters. They do have a fireplace, but we'll keep ourselves warm just by having enough of us in the room. So I want to talk about one other thing, and that is discipleship. I've spoken of it in the past more casually, but I believe I need to honor what that is. Because when devotion manifests, it is the aspect of it is inherently a motivator to action to manifest divine. If the action is for the ego in its seeking, if the action is for the ego in its becoming a better human being, then the action is as meaningless as the place that comes from. Because we'll always endlessly be self-improving, if that's your goal. And of course, that's just another samskara that has you keep coming back lifetimes and lifetimes to do it better. To be good, not bad. Or to be bad, not good. So this is of a different order. When devotion becomes action, it is organizing of the person to be in service. And the nature of the service is dependent on what it's serving. If we serving our discipleship is something true, we become true. If we're serving something that's false or some degree of false, we become false or some degree of false. So the nature of discipleship is very much determined by what we're devoted to. And by the way, that's not your decision. It's something that happens for you. It's an event that calls forth a yes in your whole system that says this. But our capacity to know this is still being shaped by our human design, our preferences and our projections and our idealizations and our how it should be's, rather than the ultimate what is true. So interimly, there's always being devoted to something that's true and some false, or that's false and some true. So how do you know? You know through the process of discipleship, because it would make no difference. If you are aligned with your discipleship, all paths lead to truth. And the nature of that is an inner capacity that lets you know the truth of your own experience, but also the evidence of the change that's been going on in your life. And I don't mean an outer change, I mean the inner change. When you notice that you're no longer getting activated in the way you used to get activated, when you're noticing that you're more attentive to your reactions and you have more say over your moods, and when you have the ability to step and recognize you're having caught up in a fugue storm of your mind and its ideas and its projections, you discover a capacity to wake up more, to become more awake. Then you can know that your devotion is aligned in its discipleship. Because it's never easy to be a disciple. Its principle is to test you vigorously and continuously, outwardly or inwardly. And up to now, my work has been mostly inward. The energy itself of the South Force pushes up the issues, and most of the structures that would separate us from the object of our devotion should come up, and they either take you away or forever or for periods of time, or cause you always to be in a certain degree of resistance and rebellion or doubt or confusion. These things don't go away. The only time they go away is when you are the presence. In those moments when you are the freedom. In those moments where the devotion is an unending quality of being, not with a destination, not with a rajas impulse, but a quiet, resolved steadiness. Discipleship is a path to becoming the guru. Not everyone will manifest guru, but we have to become the third principle. We have to become the third thing that's beyond birth and death to even qualify for the category. So what's so key here is that India, the preservation of the notion of the guru is the preservation of the notion that discipleship is the means to the guru. Because when the guru comes, then you are that third thing. You know, it's not, you can't judge yourself by what I'm saying, by the way. Don't take this personally. This is a predicament. This is how it is. Whatever you're experiencing, whatever's been your journey with me up to now is exactly what I'm talking about. What is the form of your discipleship? That is what can change. For most of you, the form of your discipleship is to attend my free programs. The other expression would be to pay for my not free programs. Some of them would be to show up at a program and do a program. Those would all be expressions of the movement towards discipleship, towards the guru principle, to that third pillar. The more our outer life is a reflection of that which we are longing for, the more we're aligning our thought, our attention, our actions, committing to and staying with the process of that commitment, of that discipleship, then becomes how we become the third pillar. And remember, everything has to come up for that to be accomplished. Any residue doubt, any unexamined, unmet superstition, any part of your structure that's still deeply invested in desire or wanting something from this world, any part of you that actually is still profoundly deeply caught up in an ancestral structure without knowing it. These will all have to be found, met enough to be recognized. So the invitation to all of you is an invitation to discipleship. For me, it's someone who becomes my partner in the work. It's someone who's playing some role, some place in doing my programs, in conducting and supporting the programs, in supporting and conducting programs for other people in the Sangha. The global training program was an arena where I was teaching people, showing people a path to discipleship. It came from this one source. These were experiments, discoveries to see what would hold and what wouldn't. What would allow a person in this life to discover a determination of many lived lives up to now, and to recognize the purpose of this life as a resolve, a commitment to get there before this time on this planet is up. There's nothing more you can do. The highest service of Guru Seva, of serving the Guru, is the ultimate self-sacrifice of whatever that separates you from that. Now, this isn't about you changing your outer life, though these inevitably will happen without you having to do anything, but you learn to let go of your life as you've known it. And you commit to periods of time where you purposely create a new life, a new content for the context of what you're becoming. So coming to Washoe, being of service, taking the role and taking it into your community, into your field of people that you're connected to. These become the fields, the arena of your expanding discipleship, and with it becomes devotion. Now, what that will be for each of you is different. I invite you to experiment, to explore. It's your life. No one else is living it but you. No one else has obligated you to live anything except what you've obligated yourself to. Discovering your freedom to choose, your freedom to commit, to freedom to go beyond yourself is probably the most essential quality of what you have been all your lives, demonstrating itself in this life, saying, I must do this. So this is the invitation. I assure you, it's not a demand. It's not a requirement. If you choose this, I need you to choose it with all of yourself, or as much of yourself as you can organize to choose this. Integrity, commitment, is an alignment of the parts of ourselves consciously to not allow anything else obscure what we've been, the purpose we've been organized for. To be steady through all the turmoil and challenges and contrary evidence is how we grow in that principle of the Guru, which is already in each of you to whatever degree of faith, whatever degree of ability to keep going even when all the evidence points contrary. That is evidence of that inherent discipleship, that quality of yourself that's here on this planet for a purpose, to come into existence this life. Not as if it matters, but because it matters, because there's nothing that matters more. To discover that third principle within you, a quality of freedom and love, the capacity to hold the suffering, the challenges, and the difficulties, along with the delights and the wonders and the bliss and the endless ananda that comes, is the goal. It's the evidence that all parts of you are aligned. You've come to the end of your journey. Okay, so I'm feeling that we should just spend the next 10 minutes sitting together in silence. Let the presence, the freedom, the love, that unfolding principle of the guru within yourself, that third pillar, become a felt sense in your body. Because the body is the ultimate repository of the truth of what you're becoming. Your body knows. Let's feel into your body right now and let it speak to you. Ten minutes.